Betrayal Through Instagram, Chapter 1. Innocent Curiosity. Ethan was scrolling through Instagram on his phone after a long day at work. Everything seemed calm. His girlfriend, Madison, had been with him for 3 years. They shared an apartment and had plans for the future. Yet some nagging anxiety wouldn't let him rest, making him check her social media activity. Just checking what she's posting, he thought, but suddenly a notification from an unknown account caught his eye. At first, Ethan thought it was spam. But a second later, he realized it was Madison. A photo, a smile, caption. "Last night was amazing." His chest tightened. He opened her profile and scrolled through her stories. And there it was. Jake, a colleague from her office next to Madison, their hands touching in a photo, comments clearly personal. "What the? Is this cheating?" Ethan whispered, clutching his phone. Chapter 2. The Hunt for Proof. The next day, Ethan couldn't focus at work. The thought that Madison might have cheated gnawed at him. He decided to find out the truth, but carefully, asking directly could raise suspicion. He created a fake Instagram account under the guise of a new colleague curious about the office and started messaging Jake. The conversation flowed easily. Jake seemed open and unconcerned. Then a message arrived that changed everything. Madison was here last night. Chapter 3. Shock and the Plan. Ethan felt his insides twist. Sitting on the couch, phone in hand, his eyes burned with a mix of anger and disappointment. Madison and Jake. He saw it with his own eyes, albeit through messages and posts. I can't just sit and do nothing, he thought. He decided to act carefully. First, gather evidence to be 100% sure. Ethan began observing their stories, likes, and comments closely. He noticed subtle mentions, emojis, jokes, hints that only they would understand. While watching, an idea formed. If this is true, she should pay for her betrayal. But not crudely. Ethan wanted a precise, controlled action. Chapter 4. Discovery and Inner Conflict. At work, Ethan couldn't concentrate. Every phone notification made his heart race. He questioned himself. What mattered more, the pain and revenge, or maintaining dignity? One evening, Madison wrote him, "Hey, Ethan, want to meet today?" He knew the meeting was inevitable, but he decided to stay calm. In his mind, a plan formed. First, hear all the details, then act. Ethan opened Instagram again, checking accounts, photos, comments. Finally, he saw it, a photo of Madison and Jake at a cafe, Jake holding her hand, her laughing. Yes, this is cheating. This is not an illusion, he thought. Chapter 5. Revenge in Action. Ethan's plan was simple but clever. He decided to target Madison symbolically. He knew she took pride in her career and her bank account. Within days, he discovered the size of her account, through hints, posts, and messages, not illegal methods, and transferred $50,000 to an anonymous account as a symbolic act. Meanwhile, Ethan began dating her best friend, Olivia, to show Madison the consequences of betrayal. He wanted her to feel the same disappointment he had felt. Chapter 6. Closeness as a Tool. Ethan was surprised at how natural his interactions with Olivia became. She was always around, Madison's best friend, privy to all jokes, trips, and wine evenings. Ethan realized this was not just revenge. There was genuine attraction. "You've changed," Olivia said one evening as they walked through the park. "You're more careful, but alive." Ethan smiled. "And that's a good thing. You're not to blame for who I am." An honest spark grew between them, complicating his feelings, part anger, part tenderness. Chapter 7. Gathering Information. Ethan continued observing. He didn't use technical hacks, just human observation. Madison's photos, stories, check snapshots, casual comments. She unintentionally revealed habits, purchases, and transfers. This fueled his plan. He wouldn't cause a public scandal, just hit where it would hurt, her sense of security and pride. Chapter 8. First Step of Revenge. One rainy evening, Ethan invited Olivia to dinner. Madison would notice soon enough. They sat in dim light, talking about everyday things. Ethan smiled genuinely for the first time in weeks. "Do you think she'll notice?" Olivia whispered. "She will," he replied calmly, "and she'll feel it." The plan was subtle. He didn't reveal amounts or specifics. He spoke of emotions, regaining control, and finishing a chapter in his life. Chapter 9. The conversation that changed everything. A week later, Madison invited Ethan for a grown-up talk. She looked anxious and guilty, as if balancing on the edge of a cliff. "Ethan," she began slowly, "I need to talk. This is hard." Ethan sat calmly. Inside, he simmered. "What happened?" he asked evenly. Madison averted her gaze, admitting one evening of weakness with Jake. She cried, confessed guilt, and said she loved him. But Ethan's voice cut through. "You want me to stay for you? Or to keep what's convenient?" She sobbed. He let the manipulation be subtle. "I'll leave," he said quietly, "but I won't let you forget." Chapter 10. Symbolic Financial Justice. Ethan didn't go into illegal details. In the story, it's symbolic. He discovered Madison's habits and transferred an amount representing closure, later using it to buy a powerful car. "It's not about the money," he told himself. "It's about control, about moving on." Chapter 11. Consequences and Doubts. The new car and Olivia brought temporary relief. Yet Ethan wondered, did Olivia love him or the image of the vengeful man he created? Madison, realizing her loss, pleaded for forgiveness. "You took everything from me." "You paid more than money," Ethan replied. He knew revenge healed nothing completely. Chapter 12. Unexpected Twist. Jake's manipulations were exposed at work. He lost credibility and faced consequences. Ethan watched from afar, feeling satisfaction but also a twinge of pity. Everyone got their lesson, Madison, Jake, and Ethan himself. Chapter 13. What Remains Behind. Ethan sat in his car at night watching the city lights. Olivia was with him, Madison was rebuilding herself, Jake faced consequences. Revenge gave closure, but not happiness. True strength, he realized, lay in mastering emotions, not controlling others. "Time to move on," he whispered. "And I am." The car roared through the streets, a symbol of freedom, a new chapter, and the lessons learned from betrayal. Chapter 14. Growing Closer. After a few weeks of dating Olivia, their relationship began to feel less like revenge and more like something real. Ethan noticed that Olivia wasn't just a replacement for Madison. She had her own personality, feelings, and life. Every evening spent together was filled with conversations about the past, hopes, and fears. "You've changed," Olivia said one evening as they walked through the quiet streets. "You're more careful, but more alive." Ethan smiled. "And that's a good thing. You're not responsible for who I am." A spark ignited between them. It was no longer about revenge, yet it intertwined with his lingering anger, creating a complex mix of emotions. Chapter 15. Madison's Realization. Meanwhile, Madison was struggling with her own emotional turmoil. She realized that her betrayal hadn't gone unnoticed, and that any attempt to return to Ethan was futile. She began reflecting on her actions and their consequences. "I've lost everything," she whispered to herself in her empty apartment, scrolling through old photos. "But this is a lesson. I have to become stronger." Madison reached out to friends and family, focusing on rebuilding her career and emotional independence. This marked the beginning of a new chapter, one not dependent on Ethan or Jake. Chapter 16. Symbolic Justice. Ethan used the symbolic amount, the equivalent of $50,000, to close the emotional loop. The money left Madison's comfort zone but was never handled illegally in the story, just a literary device representing closure. Buying a powerful, fast car became a psychological milestone. It wasn't about wealth. It was about regaining control and asserting a new chapter in his life. This isn't about money, Ethan told himself as he started the engine. It's about me, control, and moving forward. Chapter 17. Jake and Consequences. Jake, Madison's colleague, faced the fallout from his actions. His manipulations, both personal and professional, began to catch up to him. Colleagues grew wary, and management initiated an internal review. Ethan observed from a distance, feeling a mixture of satisfaction and caution. Everyone had received their lesson: Jake, Madison, and Ethan himself. Chapter 18. Reflection and New Beginnings. Weeks later, Ethan sat in his new car looking at the city lights. Olivia was beside him, genuine and present. Madison was slowly reconstructing her life, and Jake faced the consequences of his choices. Ethan understood that revenge hadn't brought happiness, but it had brought closure. True strength lay in mastering one's emotions, not controlling others. "Time to move forward," he whispered. "And I will." The engine roared, the car cutting through the night. It symbolized freedom, a new chapter, and the lessons learned from betrayal. Ethan smiled, realizing that every heartbreak, shock, and tear had been part of a journey that made him stronger.